Welcome to Business Time. I am Melesha. All right, there's something I want you to do for me. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I need you to select the subscription button. Yes, go right now. Select the subscription button. I'm waiting. All right. Have you sat an exam and you were so sure that you knew the answers for the questions? But however, when the results came out, when you looked at the exam paper, you realized that something is wrong.
Yes!
But when you look at the exam results, when you look at the exam paper, you realize that you got so little marks and you're wondering what went wrong. How dare the teacher give you such little marks?
No!
How you end up with a 2 out of 10? How you end up with a 5 out of 10? You should have gotten an 8 out of 10. And you want to know why? You never answer the questions properly. The teacher knew what he or she was doing. I am going to teach you how to beat exam questions with some strategies. Are you ready to hear? All right, listen up. By the way, you subscribe yet? Subscribe. Usually, when you're asked to list or state something, you're usually just required to list the things in bullet points. You do not need to go into detail. All you need to do is to state what those things are. So you're just basically identifying the thing and listing it. So you hear I keep saying state list. Now, let's look at this question. So if you're asked to list any 4 functions of a manager, all you need to do is to put them in an order. You can number them. 1, planning. 2, organizing. 3, delegating. 4, controlling. You do not need to do anything else. You do not need to give any explanation because all you are asked to do is to list them. Just identify them, and you can order them by numbering them or put any kind of bullet points. Now, if you are asked to identify something, identifying is the same as listing. All you need to do is just to identify the thing. Tell what the thing is. You do not need to explain the thing. You do not need to go into any detail. So if you are asked to identify any tool franchise, all you need to do, just like when you're listing something, you can list them in order of number. So you can put 1, Burger King, 2, Chuck E. Cheese. No, you're not going to list a third point because all it asks you to do is to list 2 things. All right. So all of these questions, let's say identify, list, depending on how much they ask you to list or to identify, usually it's 1 mark each. And if you're doing the principles of business exams, usually it's these to list something, it's 1 mark each. And so if you're asked to list 2 things, that is usually 2 marks. If you list 3 things, guess what? You will not get a 3rd mark. So, to save time, you don't want to write any unnecessary thing during the exam because remember, your examinations are timed. Now, let's look at state. State is similar to listing and identifying. Now, you can also order it in terms of numbering some bullet points. You want to list it in bullet points, whatever it is that you want to do. We must be able to see what you're stating clearly. That is key. What if you're asked to state any 2 characteristics of a partnership? How would you do that? Now, stating does not require you to give any detail of anything, which is similar to listing or identifying. So in answering that question, 2 characteristics of a partnership, you would say something like, okay, a partnership has 2 to 20 partners. You don't have to say anything more. That's your answer. So you have just stated 1 thing. So now we need to state a second point. So our second point could be that the profit and losses of a partnership are shared by the owners. Now, as long as what you are listing makes sense and we can figure out what it is that you are saying, then you will get your full marks and you will get your 1 mark for each of your answers. Now, let's say you're asked to define something. Let's say you're asked to define profit. And to define profit, it's 2 marks. No, it is kind of a little tricky. I know that. So no, you have to make sure that you give a full definition. And in writing your definition, you're going to have to know, imagine that, okay, at some part or at some point in your definition, you would put a 1 mark for perhaps half of your thought, and then another extra mark for the final stage of your thought. And so you have to think of it that way. So one way that you could answer this question is saying profit refers to the surplus after expenses are deducted from the revenue. Now, does that sound like a 2 marks definition? Let's look at it. All right, where would we possibly get 1 mark for? We said profit refers to the surplus. That's kind of like a thought, don't it? So you get a 1 mark there. And then you will get a second mark for for when you said after expenses are deducted from the revenue. So in giving your definition, and I will dare say that if you are asked to define something and it is 3 marks, then you will need to put another thought to it or another sentence to make it up to the 3 marks. Yes. So when you're answering your questions, you cannot just put down a definition that you feel should be there, but you also have to take into consideration the number of marks that are awarded for the question. So both will have to work together. So you have to look at what they're asking you to do, and you have to look also at how many marks are allotted for your questions. Now, when you're asked to describe something, you're basically telling what the thing is, so that at the end of the day, when you're finished telling or describing the thing, nobody will be confused as to what you're talking about. So if you're to describe something, you want to give a detailed description of what the thing is, what it looks like, what it sounds like. Everybody will be clear on what it is that you are describing. Let's say you're asked to describe one role of the employee in a business, and that will be 3 marks. Now, the first thing that you would need to do is to identify that role. In identifying that role, you'll get 1 mark for that. So the role that we are going to identify is to say provide excellent customer service. Now we need to work for the next 2 marks. This is where the description part comes in, because we have to give a detailed explanation basically of what this role is all about. Excellent customer service. So when employees are interacting with the customers, they are to treat the customers with respect. They are expected to be courteous and basically be responsive to customers' needs. Now listen to that. You think we can get a 2 marks for that? Yes, because you gave a description in detail what that role represents, when you're describing it, what it is that an employee is to do when it comes to customer service. I hope that you were able to benefit from these strategies shared. Look out for more videos that will help you to beat exam questions. Remember to subscribe. Hope you learned something. See you next time.